Wait for a couple of questions, I suppose. The other thing, or I guess something that I did kind of want to mention, which I find quite fascinating. Quick question. Hit me with a Y if you're under, hey, Johan, how you doing? Good evening, good evening. Thank you for dropping by. Thank you for joining. Hit me with a Y if you're under or at 5'8". If you're under or at 5'8", or whatever the hell that is in metric. I can't recall. But what is that, 1.6 meters, something like that? Hello, Tim Pool's hairpiece. Hello, King Leo. How you doing? Hit me with a Y if you're under 5'8". Johan says, no. We got a bunch of tall dudes here. Hello, Hamid. Hello, Anonymous Dan. Self-contradictory name, I suppose. Lieutenant Dang. Yeah, we got one. No, says Dark Plant. No, says Pareto. Somebody says hi, because they just don't listen. I'm tall, handsome, and rich, says Johan. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say 31 years old. 5'9", woo. 6'2", wasp. So we got some tall guys, a couple of short guys. So have you ever heard of or read of the studies wherein they talk about what happens when you're short, how much money you need to make up for being short? Anybody? Hey, Julie, how you doing? Nice to see you. Have you ever heard this? It's pretty wild stuff. A friend of mine told me about this many years ago. He was a grand total of 5'6", maybe, and he found it quite disheartening. Now, I don't mean to make this disheartening at all. I just thought it was kind of interesting to look at this. And dating, so the height income trade-off for men and for women, right? So let's do the guessing game, because I find it entertaining. Let's do the guessing game out here, right? So if you're 5 foot tall, how much extra money do you need to make to be a 5'11" guy? Like to be a 5'11" guy. So if you're 5 foot tall, how much extra money do you need to make up for the fact that you're less than a 5'11" guy? Anybody want to give any guesses out there? $100,000 per inch. That's what you got. All right. So that would be 1.1 million per year, not net worth or anything, like per actual year. Anybody want to take a guess? We'll go with US. 100K per year, says Sirius Bear. Pareto 182 says 100,000 per inch. The Julie says 400K. Richardson says 10K per inch per year. I assume you're talking about your OnlyFans premium. Okay. About 4 Bitcoins in a year. We got 250K. All right. So that's really, really interesting, right? So this is a table that shows the additional annual income that a man or woman needs to be as successful as a 5'11.5" tall inch man or a 5'5.5" tall woman, the median heights in our online dating population. So the baseline incomes, this may be a little bit further back, it's pretty close, right? The baseline incomes were $62,500 for men and $42,500 for women. Now, you know what's interesting is they say, well, women only make 3/4 of what men make, but that's right. So, but in order to be attractive, a woman only has to make $42,500 to equivalent of a man $62,500, right? Because apparently it's 10 grand a tit. So that's really quite interesting, right? So women make less, but they need to make less, or they don't need to make nearly as much to be considered attractive, right? So if the man is 5 foot tall, he needs to make $317,000 a year more than the baseline, right? So the baseline is 62.5. He needs to make $317,000 a year more, right? 317 plus, I'm not going to do this in my head. Don't ever tell my daughter. So he needs to make almost $380,000 a year instead of $62,500 to make up for being 11.5 inches shorter than, I guess, what's considered the ideal. Yes, the Julie was over. Yeah. Because this is a good over-under, right? This is a good Over under. Hey, Steph Crites, and all you legends listening in, thank you so much. How much does Danny DeVito need to make? Well, have you seen, what's it? Rihanna Perlman or whatever her name is. So it's dose dependent, right? It's dose dependent. So here's something interesting. So if the man is 5 foot tall, he needs to make 317,000. Let's do another one down. Let's do another one, right? So if he's 5'2", so he's got those 2 precious inches. Every man's going to add an inch to every estimate anyway, right? So if he's 5'2", so 5'0" guys need $317,000 extra per year. If you're 5'2", what does that drop down to? Right, this is how you know whether it's like random, true, false, or what, right? If he's 5'2", 5'0", 317,000, 5'2", what does he need to make? What does he need to make? Any guesses? Any guesses? See, now we're in the neighborhood, right? We're going to assume that it's less than 317, right? Because otherwise the whole thing wouldn't make that much sense, right? Oh, I've got an edge there. There we go. So yeah, any guesses? 240, 275. Yeah, good neighborhood. Good neighborhood. I feel like there's a lag. I do feel like there's a lag. Asians make the most, yet are on the short end of the stick on the dating pool. Yeah, true. It's a law degree. Oh, yeah. So if he is 250, yeah, you're pretty close, right? Oh, pretty close. So the actual number is $269,000. So 5'0", 317, 5'2", $269,000. 5'4", 221,000. 5'6", 175,000. 5'8", 138,000. 5'10", 24,000. Now, if he's half an inch over the ideal, and so strange, I am actually 5'11.5", so just accidental ideal, right? Or the median, sorry, not the ideal. So if he's got 1/2 inch extra, he has to make $8,000 a year less. Half an inch. So 5'10", he's got to make an extra $24,000 a year, right? That's $250,000 almost in 10 years, right? He goes 2 inches taller. He goes from having to make an extra $24,000 a year to a woman finding him as attractive if he makes $8,000 a year less, right? So that's what, 54.5, right? So instead of 62,500, if he's 6 foot tall, he only has to make 54,500. Now, if he's 6'2", this is a pretty wild jump, right? So if he's 6'2", how much less can he make to be as attractive as a 5'11" guy, right? 6'2", right? 2.5 inches to 5'11.5", right? How much less money does he have to make a year to be equivalent in attractiveness to a 5'11.5" guy, right? So some guy standing next to me, he's 6'2", and the woman looks at him and says, "Oh, I'll take X amount of dollars less." Somebody says 36K, 20K less, says Duke Skywalker. Yeah, 50K. Oh, Julie, you're not helping the guy. Minus 180K. Okay, dude, our baseline is 62,500. He can be a hobo. That's right. He could be a hobo. Yeah, well, we'll get to the hobo. The hobo is coming up. I'm not kidding. The hobo is coming up. So if he's 6'2", oh, can we please take slow mode off? Oh, is that why things are slow? Yeah, we can take slow mode off. We can be off with the slow mode. All right, oh, is that why things are show? Let me just do that. Sorry, let me just, oh, Lord. Oh, Lord, how do I take off the slow mode? Oh, you know what? While I'm here, let's toss out some lemons. What do you think? Shall we? Let's distribute some rewards. Yes, indeed. That's what we shall do. Right, here we go. Does anybody know how to take off the slow-mo? Oh, I bet you it's here. Hang on. Moderator. Show timestamp. Chat room setting. Require. Hang on. We'll get. Oh, yeah, we go. Yeah, we'll take the slow mode off. Okay, slow mode's down to 5 seconds. All right. So isn't that wild, though? Isn't that wild? He can be a hobo. So, yeah, congratulations, everyone who got some lemons. Appreciate that. manfreedomain.com/donate. That would be great. So, yeah, it's pretty wild. Now, if he goes, it's just amazing, right? If he goes from 6'2" to 6'4", so 6'4", he's got 4.5 inches off the median, which is $62,500 a year. If he's 6'4", he has to make $51,000 a year less, and he's as attractive, right? Isn't that wild? He's 51,000 less. In other words, he goes from needing to make 62. So the guy who's 5'11 and a half needs to make 62,500 for a woman to be attractiveness level, whatever, 8. But for the 6'4" guy, he only has to make $11,500 a year to be equivalent. So the guy who's 5'11 and a half has to make an additional $51,000 just to be equivalent to the 6'4" guy. But it gets even worse. 6'6" guy, a 6'6" guy can make $63,000 less, and a woman finds him as attractive as the 5'11 and a half guy. So let's put this in context, right? Let's put this in context. So a guy who needs to make $62,500 a year, if he's 5'11 and a half, for him to be as equivalently attractive to a woman will pay him $500 a year if he's 6'6". He doesn't have to make any money. In fact, a woman will be happy to pay him $500 a year because he needs minus 63, but the starting point is 62.5. I mean, I think I'm reading that correctly. 6'10", I guess at this point, it peaks out, right? Because it doesn't go any higher than minus 63. So isn't that wild? So my friend who was 5'6" needed to make $175,000 extra a year to be equivalent to me. That's jaw-dropping. I will put the link here, right? But that's completely jaw-dropping. Here's the link in case you want to have a look at these numbers directly. So a guy who's 5'2" has to make over $250,000 extra per year, not net worth, per year. So he's got to make $2.7 million extra over a decade just to be equivalent to a 5'11 and a half guy. Now, whether it's because women like taller guys to nestle up to, whether it makes them feel physically safe, or whether they like wearing heels, Asian men must make at least $202,000 more than their white counterparts given same weight, same personality. Is that right? Wow. Wow. Isn't that wild, though? That is brutal. That is brutal. And one guy said, LOL, I need $265,000 extra just to have a relationship. F my life. Well, unfortunately, that means not F your life. A 6'6" guy is allowed to earn nothing. Nothing. Now, a woman's income doesn't matter that much, right? Just doesn't matter that much. And it's also for looks as well, right? So if you divide looks into a decile, right? So there's 10%, bottom 10%, 20%, right? So if the man is in the bottom 10% of looks, the additional income he needs to make is $186,000 a year. Isn't that wild? If he's in the 20%, bottom 20% of looks, or sorry, if he's 10 to 20% in looks, he needs to make $169,000 a year. 20 to 30, $159,000, 30 to 40, 151,000, 50 to 60, 143,000, 60 to 70, 128,000, 60 to 70, 86,000, 80 to 90, 37,000, 70 to 80, 37,000, 80 to 90, 25,000. And if he's in the top 10%, he doesn't need to make extra at all. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? Just brutal. Just brutal. Now, here's the thing, right? So what's wild about this as a whole, and we'll get to the cause in a sec, but what's wild about this as a whole is that, oh yeah, so listen, if you're tall, you're lucky. It's really pathetic to claim superiority because of height. Like, I just wanted to point that out. You're just lucky. And here's the thing. If you build your self-esteem on accidental luck, you're kind of a terrible human being. I just wanted to point that out. You're kind of a terrible human being because you're taking vanity in something you didn't earn. You're thinking you're better because of something you didn't earn. And we always hear these talk about bigotry and prejudice and so on. What we don't talk about, this is brutal stuff. The height, the looks. Now, a man can do something about his looks. You can work out, you can, basically you can work out, you can weigh less and so on. There's some things that you can do about your looks. Make sure you have nice teeth, good oral hygiene, that kind of stuff, right? But we don't talk about the unbelievable bigotry of women towards short guys. Like, staggering levels of bigotry. Can you imagine if there was a hirer, somebody who hired someone in a corporation, who said, well, if you're black, you need to pay me $317,000 to give you a job, right? I mean, that would be incredibly bigoted. If you were black, you got to bribe some guy, whatever, to get a job. Or if you were a woman, you had to bribe some guy to get a job. But short guys have to bribe women to get dates. Like, this is straight up unbelievable bigotry against short guys. And tall guys, what's the old joke about? It's a tall guy. He's got a card that he hands out, right? And it goes something like, no, I don't play basketball. Yes, the weather is fine up here and all that. I'm told, like, this, all the common questions. So tall guys you're just born lucky. And I get all of that, right? And so if you're tall, and I think, what's the average, 5'10" or something like that? I'm slightly above average. And good posture helps a lot too, because a tall guy who slouches looks, to me at least, less attractive than a short guy with a good posture. But holy crap. I mean, this amount of bigotry and rejection for a guy through no fault of his own, just happens to be short. That's really sad. The halo effect applies to tall folks as well. Oh yeah, in general, in conflict, the tall becomes ridiculous, right? And the tall, yeah, somebody's saying at some point tall becomes goofy. That would be at least 6'5". And a friend of mine named Chris, when I knew when he was a teenager, he was tall. I think he was about 6'5" or something like that. And a really great guy. Things actually didn't go too well for him in his life. And one of the reasons was because he was so tall. What did he get? He got knee issues. Plus, tall guys tend not to live as long because their heart has to work harder to pump the blood around and all. That's one of the reasons why women live on average 7 years longer than men. So, taller people have, and he had knee problems. I remember we used to go to see movies, and I thought we went to go and see a movie together. It was a comedy, and I thought he was laughing so hard he was crying, but just the way he had to sit and couldn't find it. He had to sit always on the edge and stretch out his knees because his knees were just killing him. And so we don't talk enough about the incredible prejudice against short people. Like there's that old song, short people got no reason to live. I mean, come on, that's just awful. I mean, I know it was kind of a half comedy song and all of that, but the amount of prejudice shown by women against short guys is not talked about in society, and it really should be, because there are some, fantastic, wonderful. I mean, there was a Sex in the City where there was this really confident hedge trader or bond trader or something, and he's sitting in the bar and he gets off and he's really short, and the woman's like, oh, right. And it's considered to be like, a guy can't help his height. Like a woman who's overweight, she can do something about it. This makes me worried to marry a short girl because my son will have to put up with this BS. Well, it's my wife is she's just a little under 5'2", so she's a wife compact edition. I have a friend, she's 4'11", but won't date guys under 5'11". Well, sure, because there's that whole status thing. Like if for a guy to go with a fat girl, it's like, that's an indication usually of very low self-esteem. And I think for a woman, there's that issue of I can't get a tall guy, and therefore that's what I have to settle with, right? There's an old Tom Likas. Tom Likas used to always say this when he'd get some guy calling in complaining that his wife or his girlfriend was fat. Tom Likas would always accurately predict that the guy didn't make much money. You know, if you want to keep your wife slender, best thing to do is to make some decent coin, and she'll rise to the competition, right? So yeah, it's unbelievably brutal. So here's this is the terrible thing. We don't talk enough about the relentless, staggering, catastrophic bigotry against shorter guys. And I mean, it's truly astonishing when you think that, you know, half an inch, literally half an inch height is a $32,000 a year gap requirement. Half an inch height, that's nothing. That's nothing. Half an inch height. So if you're, let's see, half an inch height is $8,000 a year difference. Sorry, 5'10" to 6 foot. That's 2 inches is a $32,000 gap. From 5'11" to 6 foot is $8,000. Now I wonder, $8,000 difference. In other words, a 6 foot tall guy can make $8,000 less, and he's considered just as attractive as 5'11" and a half. I mean, that's a round up kind of situation. I mean, put on a pair of sneakers and stand straight, and you've made it, right? So this is truly brutal. And I wonder what it would be before the welfare state. Now, listen, I get all of this stuff, right? I get that in the past, a tall guy, strong genetics, and he can fight for you, and he can defend you, and he intimidates, and tall guys can often make more money. It's kind of like the with hair guys. Like, ever since there's been television, a bald guy has never become president, and 90% of men are balding by their 60s, right? Which is generally when the president thing kicks in. And I mean, the staggering prejudice against bald guys in politics is truly astonishing. And you've eliminated 90% of the talent pool because people won't vote for a bald guy. You know, and it's funny because people said, "Oh, Steph, you should get into politics and so on." And it's like, you know, the bald guys, just because we have a completely stupid population as a whole at the moment, a bald guy can't win in politics, which is, again, by the time you get to political maturity in your early 60s, 90% of men are balding, and you can't win. I mean, isn't that amazing? Through no fault of your own, right? Being bald is just a genetic thing, right? Through no fault of your own, 90% plus of men are simply out of political candidacy. So you're dealing with usually less than 10% of qualified candidates, and then you expect to get a good president. I mean, come on, right? You knock 90% of anybody out of the running for completely inconsequential reasons, right? I mean, it's just hair, or it's just protein growing out of your scalp, whether it's there or not, right? So that is, let's see here. My super tall, muscly friend with face tattoos says he's been with 300 or more women. I believe him. So he's basically just a feminist creation machine, right? Let's see here. People in school used to call my father short stuff. The malnutrition made him short. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. But that's because the brain will, the body will always dispose of height to protect the brain. Genes are crazy. All my family, including my mom, 5'10" and over, but me, nope, 5'4". Oh, that's from Julie. Yeah. Being fat indicates laziness, so of course the left would defend fat people. Yeah. Tall women suffer because they can't find taller guys, and tiny short women get top dollar as spinners. I am now frightened but curious to find out what a spinner is. I dated a woman who was taller than me once. And it's funny too, because she was tall, man. She was like, I don't know, 6'3" or something like that, right? I didn't particularly mind. But I dated her, and we had a couple, she was a nice girl. We had a couple of dates. She had good conversationalist, but then she, you know, we got to sort of prior dating, right? And, you know, told a little bit about her stories. And she said, I remember this story very clearly. She said, yeah, I was living with a guy 2.5 years. 2.5. I thought we were like getting along so well. I thought maybe we'd get married or something. We'd be maybe heading in that direction. Anyway, I come home from work one day and he's just gone. And I said, what, like him gone or him and his stuff gone? He's like, yeah. She's like, he he packed everything up. He said he was going to work. I guess he doubled back and he packed everything up. And he was just gone. Everything. And he blocked me, and I never was able to couldn't get in contact with him again. No email, no nothing. Just completely vanished from my life. And then later I found out, she said, he'd even forwarded the mail. He'd been planning this for a while, and he just beamed out, man. I remember that phrase she said, he just beamed out of my life, right? And I said, well, do you have any idea what happened? She said, no idea. I have no idea what the issue was. No, I didn't say there were any problems. Didn't seem that there were any problems. We seemed to be getting along. But he just... So I didn't date her again. I mean, I think that's pretty obvious, right? Didn't date him again, right? Do you think the hair-saving medicines are any good? I know some of them can cause infertility, and I don't think that's pretty good. I don't think that's good at all. Right. Biden is bald. Another indication of election fraud. No. He's had hair plugs since like the 80s or something like that. Oh yeah. People in North Korea are slightly shorter than the South. Yes, that's right. Ancient Greeks or Romans must have great anti-balding genes, or those with hair survive history. Oh, a spinner is a petite girl that you can spin around during the act. All right. No, so bald... the question is, why has bald survived in men but not in women, right? And I think the answer is a couple of things. Bald is an indication of higher testosterone, and therefore can be a sign of greater aggression. And of course, also remember, when you'd be in fights and sword fights and so on, before there were barbers and so on, people had their hair pretty long. It could actually be pretty bad to have hair in those kinds of fights. So it could actually be a benefit in sort of hand-to-hand combat. So... Somebody says, I've been taking finasteride, no side effects on my end for hair loss. No, and I get what you're saying. I remember many years ago when I first started balding, I looked into hair transplants and I was like, nope, no, that's no good. And I don't miss it. I mean, it's an interesting question, right? If a woman won't date you because you're bald, do you want her? I don't know. Because, you're probably going to go bald sooner or later anyway, so... And the other thing I wanted to mention about this too, which is pretty wild, is don't women complain about being objectified? I mean, don't women complain about being objectified? I can't believe that they just view our physical characteristics and just being objectified. It's like, hello, you're willing to pay, or you're willing to accept $32,000 a year less for an inch and a half. Or for 2 inches, from 5'10" to 6'2", 6'0". For 2 extra inches, you're willing to give up $32,000 a year. So somebody says, as a short man full of hair, I would gladly trade all of my hair for more height. Somebody says, is critical race theory and the 1619 Project a form of communism? Yeah, it's communist subversion. Yeah, completely. Listening to your philosophical parenting podcast, we have an 11-month-old. Is there a particular book, Read Peaceful Parenting, that you like? Parent effectiveness training is not bad at all. It's not bad. Would you date a bald woman? I would not. Some guys overcompensate when they're short. I have an old friend that is 5 foot. I've seen him kick the crap out of dudes 1.5 foot taller than him. Yeah, that's the of mice and men thing, right? Of mice and men thing. So this is the wild thing, right? That women complain that they're objectified. And yet, if you look at something like the difference between 5 foot and 6'6", women are willing to give up almost $400,000 a year for completely unearned height situations, right? Like just happen to be tall, happen to be short, right? I mean, I hugely sympathize with the short guys out there, because it is brutal and it is pretty rough. And I really have a lot of contempt, not so much for the fact that women have this perspective, but the fact that society doesn't talk about it. Women won't admit it. And it's just so dumb. And that women complain about being objectified. Come on. Absolutely. Give me a complete and total break. Bro, women like men that look good too. Arguably, men are more vain in the looks department. Women might like men that look good too. Well, that's a big-brained addition to a podcast where I just went through all the statistics about how women prefer good-looking men. So thank you very much for joining late and thinking you're adding something by stating the blindingly obvious. You must come into a room with all the lights on and say, hey, I should turn on the light. Very helpful.